Folks, what were these buyers thinking? I'll get into that and then the latest home prices and insights for the City of Toronto for week ending May 15th, 2024. I have the privilege of talking to a lot of different buyers, sellers, and all sorts of different situations out there. Every now and then I got to ask myself, what were these people thinking? And recently I was speaking with a couple that invited me to their home. They're thinking of selling, and we're talking about, their whole situation, and they haven't been there long. So naturally I'm always thinking, like, you just bought the place a few years ago. Why are you selling? And when I asked them, why are you selling? They said, well, look, we love the house, and it was a really nice house. We love the house. We love the neighborhood. We love a lot of things about this, but we just can't function anymore without proper parking. The home itself had no parking spot. They had to rely on street parking. And so I said, oh, okay, so something has changed since you bought it, where you didn't need parking then and now you need parking? I asked, and they kind of looked at each other, and we had a little bit of a laugh about it, but no, nothing had changed. They absolutely needed parking the day they bought the home. And within speaking with them, within just a few minutes, and their situation about they both share the vehicle, and the husband also needs the car for work because he's in different places every day. It's absolutely necessary they have a car, and it should have been an absolute must-have, non-negotiable. And they just thought, no problem, street parking is good, because they really love the house and they really love the neighborhood, but they dread coming home at night. They dread wondering, where are we going to find a spot? And sometimes they're a few blocks away where they got to park. And sometimes they told me that they park in areas that they're just not excited about, wondering if their car is going to be okay in the morning. I'm like, guys, like, right from the very beginning, they knew parking is an absolute must-have. Why did you buy it? And they keep saying, in hindsight, it's silly, and they know it's a costly mistake, but they just can't live with it anymore. They got to sell. Now, I remember, a bit of a side note here, I remember as a kid growing up in Cabbagetown on Winchester Street. I remember we didn't have a garage. Parking was street parking, and right in front of the house, that was my dad's spot. The car was always there for some reason. And I knew when the spot in front of my dad's spot was empty, the neighbor was out, and it was my friend. I knew that the father was out, and that was the neighbor's spot, and everybody had their spot. And it's just the way it was, and somehow got along. Every now and then there was another car parked there, but that was a visitor, and we knew at some time in the evening that person would be gone, and my dad would get his spot again in front of the house, and people would just, all the neighbors, that was their situation. That was then. Street parking, as the years go by, it becomes more and more of a premium. And that's just, I'm talking about parking, but buyers sometimes will buy a house, and there's something that is an absolute must have, but they get sidetracked and they fall in love with something else, and they convince themselves that they could get by without that thing that they absolutely needed because something else was so good. Look, I'm all into compromise. You're not going to get absolutely everything that you want, but some things really have to be non-negotiable. If those buyers, any buyers, if they want to blame that their realtor talked them into it, sure, go ahead. But you're the one who's actually living in the home, dealing with the consequences of that decision. If you want to blame that there weren't many properties for sale and there was multiple offers anywhere, so we bought the first one we can get. Okay, blame it on that if you want. But again, you're the one that's living with those consequences. So don't let these external pressures of not much for sale, multiple offers, my realtor, talked me into it. All those may be true, but you're the one, the buyer, that ultimately is going to be that homeowner that is living with these consequences. So if proximity public transportation is important, then it's a must-have. If you need a home office because of the type of work that you got to have space for a home office, and going onto the kitchen counter every day with your stuff is just not going to work. Well, you got to know that up front. If having a garage or place to park your car is important, you got to know. If there's all sorts of must-have: location, neighborhood, proximity to walk to stores, if that's important. Like, you shouldn't be compromising on these non-negotiable items. And don't let pressures, or don't let your realtor, don't let anybody talk you into it, because you're the one who's going to live in with the consequences. And yeah, you could always just sell the house and get something else and make a better decision a second time. But it is a costly mistake. It's not like an Amazon purchase where, no problem, I'll just make a phone call or go online and do a return. It's a very, very costly mistake to fix your problem of buying a house that really is not functional for you. So don't compromise on your must-haves. If you feel this video can help somebody please pass it along. If you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. And if you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. Up here, there's a link. Below this video in the description, there's a link to my calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Now, let's get into the numbers. Here we go, folks. Freehold market for the city of Toronto. Detached, prices have been trending up. Semis and towns, prices have been trending up. I've got condos on the board here also, but we're not talking about the condo market today. But a huge price difference from 7.5 to almost 1.9 million for the detached market. Big price difference. Also between semis and towns, just under 1.4 for the townhouses to 1.9 almost for the detached market. Those are average sold prices. We're going to start off with detached. 204 detached properties were sold for week ending May 15th in the city of Toronto. I've put overall sales have been trending up. I'm showing now with my arrow. However, if we go back the last 1, 2, 3, 4, the last, say, almost 2 months, sales were trending down for a little while, and then they started going up again. The amount of properties selling at $2 million or more, shooting up there. 73 of those were sold. That's close to a third. It's about a third. 73 out of 204 properties sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price, been trending up. $1,898,000 is the average sold price for week ending May 15th. Now, if we take the highest sale and the lowest sale, have an interesting observation. So the highest sale was $9,850,000. The lowest sale was $800,000. These are for detached properties. But days on market for the $800,000 is 15. Days on market for the 9.8 million was about half. 8 days on market versus 15. Compared to last year, 1,898 is 1% lower than where we were this time a year ago. The median price is 7% higher. The dotted line, that's a 4-week moving average. Both median and average price still trending upwards. 204 were sold. 61% sold at list price or more. Listings, 429 were listed. Active listings is increasing. And months of inventory stayed the same as the previous week at 1.9 months of inventory. Technically, it's a seller's market, but depending on different pockets, you're going to experience seller's market, balanced market. It really depends. But the majority of the city of Toronto is sitting in a top end of a seller's market. Let's break that down actually. Here's all the city of Toronto broken down into 9 sections. Months of inventory for the whole city's 1.9, but let's look at some of these different areas. If we go over here, at Etobicoke, there was 35 sales. Months of inventory is 1.6. That's competitive, 1.6. When we start looking at, say, the Beaches area, 31 detached properties were sold. Months of inventory sitting at 1. So East York, Beaches, 1 months of inventory. Scarborough, 82% of the properties sold in Scarborough sold at list price or more. Months of inventory sitting at 1.7. Yorkdale, Rosedale, the average price is $3.5 million. 41 properties were sold. It was one of our biggest producers. Actually, the way we've got it broken down here, it's the second largest producing area with 41 sales. Average price is $3.560. Months of inventory is 2.1 months of inventory. So even at $3.5 million plus, pretty competitive right now. Let's look at semi-detached properties. 69 semi-detached were sold. 26 of those were at $1.5 million or more. So that's also been increasing. Average sold price is $1,364,000. Previous to that, looked like average price was trending down, but over the last 3 weeks, it's kind of been steady, 1,362, 1,373, 1,364. It's hovering around the 136 and a bit. Compared to last year, 1,364 is 3% lower. The median price of 1,305 is 2% lower. And similar to what I was saying earlier, the dotted line, the 4-week moving average, kind of shows the last few weeks prices are maybe trending up, but towards the end here, a little bit more flat. 1.2 is the months of inventory. If we look back, we've been at 1.2 for a while. It's hit 1.3, 1.4. It's been below at 1, 0.8. So 1.2 is kind of where we've been for a while now when it comes to semi-detached properties. 73% sold at list price or more. It's a very competitive market for the semi-detached. Here's townhouses. 14 townhouses were sold. These are freehold townhouses. 6 of those were at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price has been climbing, now at $1,387,000. 1,387 is 8% higher year over year. The median price is 7% higher. Months of inventory sitting at 2.8 months of inventory. 43%, less than half sold at list price or more. Here's a quick summary. At 3 months, below 3 months is a seller's market. Above 3 months, between 3 and 5 is a balanced market. Semis, it's pretty much a seller's market. When it comes to detached in towns, sure, there'll be some pockets where it's more of a balanced market, but overall, you're going to be experiencing seller's market. There'll be different stages of the seller's market. There'll be the extreme seller's market, and there'll be other markets that still pretty much a seller's market, but getting close to the balanced market. I know I'm saying a lot about that, but man, it's a really, really interesting, really, really technical time right now to understand what's happening with prices. And you could be in one neighborhood competing and you know, not having many properties, and you go a few blocks and it's a little bit different, and the same strategies are not going to work. So who you hire matters. Really understand what's happening in a neighborhood you're interested in. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.